Joining me now is author and political commentator Shemeka Michelle.
Shemeka Michelle.
Shemeka Michelle.
Shemeka Michelle.
When God looked at man, he said it's not good for man to be alone. He gave him a woman. He didn't give him a village. He didn't give him the community. He said, be fruitful and multiply to this man and this woman. So it's supposed to be God, husband, wife.
If you always do what you've always done, you will always get what you've always done.
Friends is a word we use every day, but most of the time we use it in the wrong way. Now you can look the word up again and again, but the dictionary doesn't know the meaning of friends. And if you ask me, you know I couldn't be much help, because a friend, somebody you judge for yourself. Some are okay and they treat you real cool, but some mistake your kindness for being a fool. You like to be with someone because they're funny. Others come around when they need some money. Some you grew up with around the way, and you're still real cool to this very day. Homeboys through the summer, winter, spring, and fall. And then there's some you wish you never knew at all, but this list goes on again and again. But these are the people that we call friends. Friends. Okay, that's it. That's all I got. That's all I got. Welcome, head shakers. Welcome to Shaking My Head with Shemeka Michelle. I am your host, Shemeka Michelle. Now, have you ever noticed that when you're around someone a lot, you start to complete each other's sentences? You maybe laugh at the same jokes. You have the same type of sense of humor. Sometimes you can just share a look and you automatically know what each other is thinking. But also, have you ever noticed when your goals start to shrink when you hang around people who have none? Or have you ever been around people who had to shrink yourself because you knew they were haters, or you didn't want them to think you thought you were better than them? The truth is, friendships can either help you grow or hold you hostage. A lot of people love to say, I'm loyal, but loyalty to the wrong people will destroy your potential. Today, we're talking about what it really means to choose friends who challenge you, not chain you. Because some of y'all are apologizing for your ambition. You're making yourself small just so other people can feel comfortable around you. And that's not friendship. That's self-sabotage dressed as loyalty. The people you call your circle, your ride or dies, they are shaping your habits, your mindset, and your future, whether you realize it or not. Proverbs 13:20 says, walk with the wise and become wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. So ask yourself, are your friends making you better, or are they keeping you basic? Basic, bitch. Just kidding. But today we're going to dig into what healthy friendships really look like, how to recognize when it's time to distance yourself, and how to do it without bitterness or guilt. Because when you're serious about your purpose, not everyone can go with you. And that's okay. It just is what it is. I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Thank you for joining today. Hi, Terrence. Hi, Kai C, Graham Coots, Khalees, book chapter verse. Yeah, those were some old school bars. High Fantasy Football League, the proverbial life. Hello, hello, hello. I missed you all last week. Did you get a chance to watch the interview that I did with Pearl Davis on Pearl Daily? If you didn't, I actually shared it in a post here to this channel, or you can just go and visit her channel. I had a really good time. We talked about several things. Sit down with Shemeka Michelle, and it was fun. I had a good time. We did some this freestyle that she does. I was actually the first guest in her new studio. So we did this freestyle and it was pretty fun. I just had a good time. If you get a chance, check it out. Because I had a blast. Also, I had to speak, and this was all in Dallas. I had to speak at a fundraiser, which they showed live. It's on the Walkaway campaign page on YouTube. So that was a really good time. So if you get a chance, check it out. Okay. Yesterday I went to church. It was Friends Day at my daughter's church. And so I was sitting there listening to the sermon, and of course, they came from the angle of Jesus being a friend. Greater love has no man than this, that he will lay down his life for a friend. And I have been I would say for the last 2 or 3 years at least, just kind of really pondering on friendship. And so when the sermon yesterday was about friendship, and of course, as I said, it was Friends Day, I thought we should have a conversation about friendship because most of us have friends, and many of us have had instances where we realize we may not be hanging around the best people because you become what you're around. Again, the scripture, Proverbs 13:20 says, walk with the wise and become wise. We pick up habits, speech, and standards from people closest to us, even when we think we're too strong to be influenced. I talked to y'all some time ago about being in a relationship and you have to choose the people that you hang around. And sometimes it can cause issues in your relationship. I hear so many times couples say it's best if you have couples friends, friends who are couples, opposed to being that woman who's just always hanging around single women, especially single women who may not share your morals or your values. Even when you think, hey, this is my friend, I can't be influenced, you typically will pick up bad behavior, and I'm going to tell you, or any type of behavior, and I'm going to tell you why in a minute. But I remember also when I was doing Cut the Bull podcast. That's still a podcast going on. It's with Wilford Riley, who is a professor at Kentucky State. Also, Charles Love. And one of the things I used to tell people about why I loved being on that show was because it stretched me. Because I used to do Facebook Lives with my friends or familiar people, I feel like it didn't stretch me like Cut the Bull stretched me. Even being on Fearless has just caused me to grow. When you're around or you surround yourself with people who think differently, broader, it stretches you. And so one of the things I loved about being on Cut the Bull was so often we would interview authors. And because we interview authors, we would typically get the book and have to read it to be able to have this conversation. And although I've always liked to read, I had got a kind of lazy and I wasn't reading as much. But we did this podcast every Thursday. So sometimes there were books that I had to read back to back to back. And of course, I didn't want to get up there and be completely clueless. So, I had to read the book. But I loved being on that podcast because it just made me step outside the box. books that maybe I typically wouldn't read or people that I typically wouldn't have conversations with. I was having these conversations. Being on Fearless, I'm the only woman on the team as far as a contributor, and it just stretches me. It stretches the way that I think. I feel like it has to stretch my behavior because as a woman, sometimes we can just be overly emotional. But when you are around a bunch of men and you know these men they're not going to entertain your emotions, then you have to stretch and say, okay, I'm going to tap into my logic opposed to just leaning on my emotions and being emotional because these men just aren't having it, right? They aren't having it. So when you go to choose your friends, this is just a challenge to the audience. Look at who you are around or who you're surrounding yourself with and ask yourself, am I being stretched? Am I being challenged or not? It's a real easy question because when you have the wrong circle will have you downplaying your discipline so that you don't make them feel bad. When you have the wrong circle will pick on you for reading certain books. The wrong circle will pick on you for knowing certain things. Let's just say I'm into politics a little bit. The wrong circle will try to demean me for knowing anything about politics. We see that in society, and we talk about that all the time. The people that worship skin color and will call myself, or let's just go bigger, someone like Thomas Sowell or Clarence Thomas. They're known as coons. They aren't authentically Black. Why? Because they think differently, and being around them would cause the average person to have to stretch the way that they think, stretch the way that they see the world, their outlook or their view. And so the wrong circle will cause you to deny your discipline and make you feel bad about it. So you really have to be paying attention to who you surround yourself with because they'll make you feel bad. Regardless of what it is. Baby is a boxer, right? He's always running 3 to 4, 5 miles a day. And there are people that don't like that. People that are close to say, oh, you always running. You always, you think you better every time I turn around, you shadow boxing. This is what people do. This is what people do. So you have to remember that it's very important who you surround yourselves with, because you're going to pick up habits from people whether you know it or not. When I think about the people that are around me or that have been around me for years, I have this one particular person that comes to mind who just always seems to downplay every single thing I do. Whether that's acting, not acknowledging it, not commending when I do something good, or just simply outright putting it down. Well, I would have got your book, but, or I don't want to say this around you because I don't want you to do a show about this particular thing. First of all, my show is not local. Most people that watch me online are not local people. So I'm not going to sit and do a whole show about you and your circumstances because no one cares. I don't even sit and do shows about celebrities who are well known, famous people. Why would I focus on you to do an entire show, saying your name, telling people where to find you? I'm bigger than that. Not only bigger than that when it comes to my platform, but bigger than that in my character. But this one particular friend, she doesn't seem to understand or recognize that. It's almost as if we are still little girls, just young girls still going to school, and everything is just so small. She doesn't have big aspirations. She doesn't think that I should have big aspirations or big goals or that I've accomplished anything in life. Just a very, very small thinker, especially when it comes to me. Years ago, and it's been over a decade, I was dating this guy who didn't understand what I was trying to do. Some of you are aware that I started Naked Girls back in 2013. Naked for us meant open, honest, and emotionally exposed. It was a group of women who came together and we just decided that's how we were going to live life. We were going to remove the mask and actually be honest. Because I will always say, let's just, for example, my car breaks down on Austin Avenue. If I call the tow truck and say, I'm on Roxborough Road, the tow truck will show up on Roxborough Road to help me, and I'm not there. Simply because for whatever reason, I lied and said I was on Austin Avenue. And I was watching a lot of people live life that way. Just couldn't get help, couldn't get what they needed because they were lying about their lives and where they were in life. And so nobody could show up to help them. Nobody could show up to assist them because they weren't where they claimed they were. So when we came together, this group of women, we said, okay, we're going to remove the mask, stop lying, and live naked, open, honest, and emotionally exposed. And I was very focused on doing that. But because, typically now a lot of the work that we do, we're online, especially when we're building certain brands, we have a greater online presence. And I was dating someone at the time who didn't understand that, I went from being this stay-at-home mom, never doing anything, to actually now pushing out a blog, doing interviews, doing podcasts. And he had a problem with that. And anytime somebody got on one of my posts and said anything, he was being very combative to them, like trying to fight everybody, mad with me, just couldn't handle it. And one particular time we were at this event where they were teaching a class on how to become a nonprofit, and it was just professional people there. And there was this guy who spoke. I waved, we sat down, and this guy that I was dating lost it, lost his cool. And I understood right then and there, he's not going where I'm going in life. He doesn't understand where I'm going. And if I continue to even try to entertain this, I'm going to have to shrink myself. Now, mind you, this isn't a husband. This isn't someone saying, hey, I have the ability to protect and provide for you. But, this wasn't a husband. So I had to actually, anytime somebody that knows me calls my phone and I feel like they know I'm in the show, I'm worried. Like, can y'all hear me? Are they trying to call me to tell me something's going on with the show? Anyway, I think they're just, I don't know, forgetting and calling me. But yeah, so I had to back away from that relationship because I knew I would have to shrink myself in order for him to feel comfortable. And I wasn't in that place. And I said, okay, if I stay here, I'm going to become complacent. I'm going to be lazy. I'm not going to have want to do anything in life. And again, this isn't my husband saying, hey, just be my wife and just take care of the children, because that would have been different. I had actually done that, put my time in raising my children, and now wanted to do something else to occupy my time. So it wasn't that type of situation. So I had to say, you know what? This person thinks too small, doesn't think much of me. And if I stay around, I'm going to begin to shrink myself. And I want to know from the audience, do you have friends who push you forward or pull you back? I want you to be honest. Do you have friends who push you forward or pull you back? I want to give you this word here because I gave you scripture. And I know there are people that said, well, that's scripture. And, I reject that for whatever reason. So here's some science. Y'all know I majored in biology. I want you to remember this term, neural synchrony. Neural, neural synchrony. This refers to the coordinated firing of neurons in different parts of the brain, both within an individual and between individuals. It describes the phenomenon where brain waves or neural activity patterns become similar or aligned over time. One key aspect, because we ain't got all day, so just one key aspect of neural synchrony is interpersonal synchronization. This occurs when the brain activity of two or more people becomes coordinated, typically during social interactions such as conversations or joint activities. Neural synchrony. This is when your brain starts to sync because you're spending so much time with that person. You're talking on the phone. You're hanging out. You just like being around. Well, your brain activity will become coordinated. So if they're stupid, if they are stupid, what's going to happen to you if you're always around this person? You're always talking to them. If they are lazy, if they lack goals, if they aren't goal oriented, what's going to happen to you when that neural synchrony kicks in? Don't believe me? Look it up. It's very important who you hang around and who you associate with, who you allow to pour into your life, because they're being an influence over you, whether you know it or not. Whether you think you're too strong to be influenced, that's not going to stop neural synchrony. I asked you in the beginning, do you have those friends where you can complete each other's sentences, where your sense of humor starts to line up, when you can just look at each other and you know exactly what you all are thinking? Neural synchrony. It's a thing. And so you really have to make sure you have shared values, not just shared interests. Because liking the same things isn't enough if you don't have or like the same values. neural synchrony. And we can't confuse chemistry with compatibility. Just because we both love to laugh does not mean we both love to grow. Do you share the same values, not just the same interests? Because if you have a friend, all she wants to do is sit around, smoke, drink, and watch The Young and the Restless, whether you're aware of it or not, your brain can start being compatible. So it's very important that you choose the people that you are around constantly that share your values. Or, as I spoke about earlier, who can stretch you. Not the people that you just typically you're comfortable around. Because that comfortability can turn into complacency. If they don't have goals and dreams, or you don't have the same values, it can influence you. Going back to relationships. If you're in a relationship and your goal is to grow with the person, be monogamous, treat them like they deserve to be treated, if you are constantly hanging around someone who doesn't share those values, it'll rub off on you. Let's just say it very plain. That can rub off on you. So you have to be very aware of who you surround yourself with and make sure that you have the same values, not just the same interests. Shared values, not just shared interests. Because listen, nobody loves a good drink more than I do. A good, fruity, strong, pretty drink. Going out to the bar, let me have a nice drink, maybe some calamari, and let's laugh and talk and have a good time. But do you share my values as well as my interests? Because if we don't share values, I can't hang around you all the time. I can't talk to you all the time. You can't take up my time and energy every time I turn around. Because we have to have shared values, not just shared interests. If you don't like to read books, I don't want to hang around you all the time. If your conversation is very basic bitch, I don't want to hang around you all the time. If you can never have a conversation that has meaning or depth, I don't want to talk to you all of the time, because I understand that synchrony is going to kick in. That neurosynchrony will kick in. And then I'll be asked out. Time will have passed and I'll be looking around. The goals that I had for the time frame that I had will be out the window, because I was more focused on shared interest instead of shared values. If you're trying to build a future, you can't keep linking arms with people who are comfortable in chaos or being complacent. If you're trying to build a future, and you have to know when it's time to let go, because growth requires distance sometimes. And I'm not saying you have to be mean. We talked earlier, we're going to figure out how to do this without being bitter. But sometimes growth requires distance. Growth requires we're not hanging out all of the time. We're not sitting on the phone 2, 3, 4 hours. I'm trying to grow, and that's not allowing me to grow. That's not feeding me in order for me to grow. I'm not getting any nourishment from this friendship in order for me to grow. And I was told a long time ago, anything that doesn't grow is either dead or retarded. Anything that doesn't grow is dead or retarded. So you need to look at yourself and ask, am I growing? In this friendship or this relationship, am I growing? Or is it causing me to appear dead and retarded? Because it's a hindrance and not a help. Sometimes growth requires distance. Every elevation requires separation. And sometimes the higher you go, everybody can't go with you. They just can't. And it is what it is. And it doesn't mean that you hate them. It means your journey now requires discipline they don't have. If you have a friend and all they want to do is sit around and gossip, but you have goals, your journey is requiring a discipline that they don't have. If all they want to do is sit and party all the time, and you have goals, your journey is requiring a discipline they don't have. Me wanting to launch my own show and getting up here and saying, I want to do more than just gossip. I want to do more than just talk about the average conversation that many podcasters are having. It requires a discipline that maybe somebody else that would love to do a podcast with me, they don't have. This requires me spending time reading, researching, preparing. Because it's very easy to scroll your phone to say, oh, this is what Cardi B is doing. Oh, Will Smith is doing this now. He's talking about this. Oh, there's a new movie coming out. That's easy. It's easy to sit around and talk about sex, talk about eating, things that we do every day. But when you want to make a difference, and that's my goal, to make a difference, I have a discipline that someone else may not have. So this doesn't mean I hate anybody. It just means my journey is different and my journey requires a discipline they don't have. Warning signs that a friendship is no longer healthy is when you leave every conversation feeling drained or guilty. I'm going to tell you, if somebody calls me and every time we talk, something is wrong, they're sick, something is aching, something is broken. You know, the people that you talk to that say, if it weren't for bad luck, I wouldn't have no luck at all. We can't be friends. We can't be friends. And I'm going to change the words. And we can't be lovers. We can't. If you always down, you will drain the life from me, and I can't do it. That's a clear sign that a friendship or is no longer healthy. When you start, this number 2, when you start hiding your wins to keep the peace. When you start downplaying who you are or the things that you have accomplished because you don't want to hear, oh, you think you bad. Oh, you think you better than me. It may be time to let go. That may be a sign that the friendship is no longer healthy. You should not have to hide when something good happens to you so that you can have peace. And you can take this conversation, guys, and apply it even to your relationships. You're dating. Do you have to hide your wins so that you can keep the peace? Something good happens to you and you're afraid to say something because it's going to cause an argument or a disagreement or, again, a condescending remark or you being belittled. That may be a sign that it is time to cut the friendship. If you feel like you have to explain your standards, this is number 3. If you feel like you have to explain your standards, you're constantly explaining your standards, that may be a sign that the friendship is no longer healthy. And a true friend will understand your standards. Well, I've been clean for 30 days, I'm trying to give up alcohol, but this person, a friend, I mean, it's just a little swig. Just try a little swig. Well, I mean, I'm really trying to be clean, I want to get healthy. I want to do, but it's just a little sweet. You should not have to constantly explain your standards to a real friend. So if you find yourself, number 1, always feeling drained or guilty after a conversation, friendship may not be healthy anymore. Number 2, if you have to start hiding your wins to keep peace, may not be healthy anymore. And number 3, you have to explain your standards. And you need to remember, some people are seasonal, not forever, and that's okay. You don't owe anyone an explanation for growing. Real friends grow with you, or at the very least, watch you grow and applaud it. They're happy for you. A friend shows himself friendly. So, what true friendship looks like, real friends help you stay accountable to your purpose. Real friends will say, what's going on? When you gonna start doing the show? It's been 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. They're gonna keep you accountable to your purpose. Yeah, I saw in your show, you did a entire show where you just talked about gossip and what was going on with the celebrities. I thought you wanted to do a show that actually talked about more than that. Uh um why haven't you scheduled a fight? You are a professional boxer. When is the next fight on the book? Oh, hey, when are you gonna put on a new production? I know you're a playwright. When is the next production? Because it's been a little bit of time. Oh, hey, I thought you said you wanted to start this podcast. You've been telling me this for the last year. When are you gonna go ahead and start that? You say you want to be a designer. You want to come out with a clothing line. It's been 10 years. She by Sheree. Just kidding. But it's been 10 years. When are you going to do that? A real friend will hold you accountable to your purpose, whatever that is. Real friends celebrate you privately and publicly. Real friends. When my daughter will say sometimes, or she has said to me in the past, that ain't a friend, Ma. I'm sorry. I don't like that person. They aren't a friend. And in 2023, when Reclaim the Rainbow hit #1, it was real clear who didn't celebrate me privately or publicly. It was real clear. Real friends check you with love, not envy. So it's not, you think you all that. That's envy. It's, I see that you said this or this is your purpose, but you're not doing it. And, when are we going to get to it? Real friends check you with love, not envy. And they don't just tell you what you want to hear. They tell you what you need to hear. Sometimes it's not nice or you're not comfortable with what they're saying because you want to be lazy. You want to be complacent. You don't want somebody, you don't feel like growing in that moment. You don't want to be stretched. It hurts. But a real friend is going to tell you what you need to hear. Iron sharpens iron. So one person sharpens another. Do you have iron? You got any iron in your life? Iron sharpens iron. Your friends should sharpen you. You should sharpen your friends. How are you all making each other better? Strong friends show up in times of testing, not just for fun. Your real friends are around even when, as the saying goes, the chips are down. Not just showing up just to have fun. And one of the things that I started to do personally, I told you all, I started really having these conversations with myself a few years ago. One of the things I started to do for my own sanity's sake was to put people in categories. Okay, this friend, if I want to just go out and have a good time, that's the person for that. If I want to just laugh, that's the person for that. This friend, we can't have an in-depth conversation. We're not going to talk about politics or globalism. They don't care anything about the World Economic Forum. That they're not going to have that conversation. Don't look for it. Don't look for it. Don't hold them to that. And then don't get mad. Because if you're not holding them to it, you're not going to get mad when they don't show up in that way. Many times we put expectations on people and you already know they're not going to show up in the way that you would like them to. And then you're mad and you're frustrated for what? It's like being mad at a man in a wheelchair that can't get up and run. He just can't run. Why are you mad? Know who you're dealing with. Know who labors among you. Because if not, you'll be bitter and disappointed. You'll be bitter and disappointed. So I want you all to check who you're hanging around. Because who you hang around affects who you become. I want to chit chat with you in the chat. Let's see if any of you are answering me. Alicia, hello. Oh, hello. Hello, Miguel. Hello, Melina. Thank you all for being here. Hi, Lady Saturn Warrior. Puny Giant. Puny Giant. There's something that's coming to my mind about that. Grasshoppers and giants. It's something about book, chapter, and verse, if you're still here, because I'm drawing a mental blank. Something about when they had to go and look at the land. And it's like grasshoppers and giants. Somebody fill me in about that, because that's what's coming to mind when I saw Puny Giant. Let's see. Book, chapter, verse says, many a man claim they're loyal, but who can find a trustworthy man? Proverbs 20:6. Shemeka, can you post about the brand new never married dating.com shirts and hoodies? Do you have something up here for me to post, or we need to just talk about oh, here you go. Maybe. There you go. You up there. Hi, Lily Carter. Thank you for joining us. Borshi is speaking all that I have been challenged to do for 15 years. Graham Cook said, I had to do the same a few years ago. He was so block think. I was nationwide in my mindset. Melina says, I have a friend who encourages me and a friend who criticizes me. The critic tries not to do it, but she thinks that anyone who does anything that she wouldn't do is wrong. Yeah, I'm telling you, this particular friend that comes to mind, I don't even think she realizes that she's being critical either. I don't. But it's just who she is. Anything that happens can never just be good job. Never. It can never be. Book, chapter, verse says, I'm in his notes. Bad company corrupts good morals and character. Absolutely. It does. See, he's bringing the scriptures. He's just bringing more scripture. Hi, Thomas Bailey. Thank you for being here. Book, chapter, verse, you will be affected or infected. Romans 12:2. Effective. Affected or effective. KMD Games. Love you, Shemeka. Keep up the great work. Thank you. Puny Giant. Is the synchronicity driven by the senses or by principles? That's what the important thing is. If you have those, that's why you got to be careful about those shared values. I would say, just from the research that I did, it would be senses. Just woke up and had Lefties Losing It on TV, and it had Shemeka Michelle on it. So I grabbed my phone to tune into the Head Shakers. Look at that. Look how you are reminded. Yes. Let's see what else. Melina says, I have a similar goal. I would love to talk to you about this. Are your DMs open? Absolutely. Yes, please do. It's easier on X for me to see them. Sometimes I get so drained going on Instagram, and I can't get on Facebook like that. I get drained going on Instagram because people will just shoot you reel after reel after reel, and before you know it, 2 hours have passed just trying to go through the inbox to see what it is, people have sent you. I don't know. They think you just have plenty of time. I don't know. Um, the pandemic took a toll on the number of friends that I have, plus my views on worldly governments and organized religions. This is from Miguel. You know what, Miguel? The pandemic showed me a lot of people just didn't have common sense, right? The people that maybe we walked in the restaurant together that would say, you need your mask. But then as soon as we sit down, pull the mask down as if the virus was just going to fly over our heads now that we were sitting down opposed to standing up. It's crazy because we watch these restaurants also build these outside enclosed places to eat. People were literally following the arrows in the grocery store. You're on the same aisle, but one side is going one way and then the other side is coming. I saw people in a totally different light after that. I said, you know what? Yes. Not you said she by Sheree, right? You know. And they didn't even hold her accountable. They picked on her, but they didn't even try to help her get it up and going. BCV says some folks are iron deficient. Correct. So they can't sharpen iron when one is iron deficient. Absolutely. Alicia says this is yet another example of things I wish I knew when I was younger. Me too. Me too. Okay, Miguel and Thomas are having a conversation. Something about a fracture from football. Something about a fracture from football, and I don't know. Israel said the giants made them feel like grasshoppers when they spied out the land. Yes. Yes. That's what it was. But they weren't supposed to be afraid, correct? Do I remember this correctly? Was it Joshua? Khalees Rael, a friend, Proverbs 17:17. A friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Yeah, so maybe it's not a friend. This is like a brother or a sister, Sharisa, you talking about sharp and hell. Sometimes you cut deep, but I appreciate every shank. That's my best friend, y'all. Again, I pay her to say that type of stuff. Yes. Lily Carter, wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. Miguel, the shopping carts weren't wiped down. The gas pump handles weren't wiped down either during it. Right. And then the people, I would see them, maybe put their gloves on. But then I would also watch them pick up the gas pump handle with their gloves, but they're also using their credit card or check card with those same gloves on, and then maybe get back in the car. It's like, are y'all thinking? Take the gloves off and just be sure to wash your hands. It's very simple, very easy. It's not that hard, people. Again, I want you all, as we close, this is the call to action. Look and survey and scan who you're hanging around. Remember that shared values matter more than shared interests. I want you to also remember that growth requires boundaries. Or you may be on a journey that just requires a different discipline. And maybe your friends that they aren't going in that same place or to the same place on that same level. True friends sharpen you, not shame you. And so audit your circle this week, head shakers. Ask yourself, who brings peace, who brings purpose, and who brings problems? Who brings peace, who brings purpose, and who brings problems? Audit your circle, head shakers. Who brings peace, who brings purpose, and who brings problems? Don't chain yourself to small-minded people and call it loyalty. Choose friends who challenge you because your future deserves that type of company. Your future deserves it. You deserve it. I just want to remind you all to share this. If you like the conversation that we have here, head shakers, go out and bring in more head shakers. Let's build our community. Always remember to comment. Remember to like, subscribe if you haven't, and tell somebody to tell somebody to tell somebody. We're going to be here again. I'm going to talk about a friendship on Wednesday that is in the news, but we're going to examine that. And then we had a question about hate crimes. So we're going to talk about hate crimes tomorrow. It's going to be a fun week, and maybe I can pull Earl Grey to Bay in for Thursday because we didn't get to do it last week. I don't know, but we'll be back here tomorrow. Thank you, Danny. Thank you for the super chat. Follow Danny's lead. Super chats are always open. Always open. I'm just kidding, but they're always open. Anyway. Hi, Mortal Above Gods, Tony. Just seen your video from 2 months ago talking about Nick Fuentes' viral video, and I gotta say, you keep it real. Thank you so much, Tony. Thank you all for joining us today. I love it when us head shakers can get together. We'll be back tomorrow because this talk about hate crimes and people's pronouns, it makes me shake my head. So we'll be here tomorrow. If a girl thinks she's a guy, do we have to say he? If he thinks she's a she, do we have to say that? Is it a hate crime? Do we have to worry about going to jail, or is it just their hurt little feelings? It makes me shake my head, and we're going to discuss it tomorrow. Same place, same time. Head shakers. See you then. I love you. Peace.